hello and welcome. I am the Restless Kaiser.
And I am Johnny B.
And I'm Harry from Fog of War.
And because he's in the wrong place, he is.
Yeah, we confused me.
Yeah,
He is
I'm
Woolly
Woolly
Mike.
I gazumped you, Woolly Mike. Modelling for advantage.
With a little bit of pre-show joining and rejoining, and I'm
there we go.
Yeah,
there we
my
go.
bad, my bad.
I'm back in
I'm in my
now.
proper spot now.
Yeah.
There we go. All right. So, who we got tonight? We got Rich John is here. Hello there, mate. Enjoy the live show. Axonite's going to catch us in the rerun. Nick from Team Clueless Games. Hello there, mate. Rich John still. Pat Neal. Hi, guys. Playing World War II British Western Europe Infantry tonight. They're the Flames of War Plastic Sprue. They're really, really nice. Those ones. They're like, what? Alid, I'm working on 40 Shades of Grey project. Nice.
Oh.
And Alsaka, evening, lads. I'm going to apologise up front. I might spend quite a bit of time muted tonight. I'm actually pretty ill. I've had a horrendous work week, but it was too late to think about cancelling. We got Harry in anyway, and he can talk enough for all of us.
Yeah.
So, Harry, just on the off chance that nobody here knows who you are, which is extremely unlikely, tell them who you are.
Oh, well, I'm Harry from Fog of War, and that's a YouTube channel where I talk absolute bollocks about Flames of War, Team Yankee, NAM, all of that kind of stuff. Mostly product reviews, and lately not a lot of that as well. I do have a new project. I'm actually working with a couple of other guys here in Western Australia, because that's where I live, called Table Ready, and we do live streams. So we get on and we talk even more bollocks about Flames of War and Team Yankee. In fact, we've got another one coming up next week where we're going to do the vexing question of metal versus plastic, which is best. So that's who I am.
Plastic, that's that answered.
Job done. And if you're in the UK, I don't know what time that is in Antipodean land, but it's actually around about lunchtime, UK time, because I often catch the tail end of it on my lunch break at work.
I'm surprised how often, people from overseas are actually able to come and do it, because it's 7 o'clock in the evening for us.
Yeah. All right. So the plan tonight is to talk a little bit about what's coming up for Flames of War Team Yankee, and it's about there's a little bit of influence, but actually we had quite a bit of information from them. Peter Siminovich, say that? Mr. Flames of War, the top guy. He does his State of the Union address at Christmas and tells us, and they're usually pretty good at outlining their intentions, and it's pretty accurate for the first 6 months, give or take, and then he's a bit more vague about what's coming back in. We've just had some information about what's coming up for Flames of War in the immediate future, because we've reached the kind of the end of the roadmap that was pretty clearly given to us. So now there's a little bit more speculation, but some of it's reasonably well known. So, Harry, do you wanna take us through what we know?
Sure. We've had in the year coming up. So we did some Team Yankee stuff and got Warsaw Pact. We've had the Bulge American and now the Bulge Germans. That release is still rolling out, so everybody's still waiting for their Tiger 2s and their Jag Tigers and all of that kind of stuff. But that is happily rolling along. That looks like a Tiger 2. So that sort of stuff is still coming. That also means that it'll be 2023 or so before I get my hands on one here, before they roll up to Australia. So coming up though, as far as I know, what's next is they're going to do another compilation like they did with the North Africa one. They're going to do one for the Eastern Front. So that's going to be mid-war, where they're going to combine the 4 source books that cover the Eastern Front for mid-war all into one thing. So Red Banner, Ghost Panzers, that kind of stuff. They're rolling all that together in one nice handy book.
What's your take on them doing that? Is it worth it? If you've already invested, say, in some of you've got, I don't know, half of the army books. Is it worth getting for those?
Yeah, I wasn't convinced when they bought out the North Africa stuff, and oddly enough, it worked really well. People really liked it. It's a cheaper way to actually get all 4 books.
Yeah.
So if you don't have them, or even if you're missing like 1 or 2 out of the collection, for what it costs for the book, it's actually worth it to buy one more book and
Wow.
end up with all of them. So, yeah, I was surprised. And they keep bringing out really cool starter sets to go with them. So, you guys reviewed a few of those good starter sets that came out that had all sorts of fun reboxings of things, British versus Italians and Americans versus Germans. So, they came out with different forces. And of course, they also bought out the Mid-War Monsters, where Flames of War meets World of Tanks, basically. And there's still more of that to come. So I would guess that we're going to see some more of the missing Mid-War Monsters roll up in this next edition for the Eastern Front.
And by that Mid-War Monsters World of Tanks, you're talking about things like Tog.
Yeah, Tog.
Yeah. For those that know.
The Germans who were sort of sticking really big guns on roller skates and yeah, that kind of stuff. So there's all sorts of limited edition resin stuff that they've had. So Thomas Chase in the comments has said, has Flames of War ever done early war in Europe, French and BEF? Just quickly to take an aside there.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so there isn't any early war in 4th edition yet. That's actually something that they haven't done. There was an agreement they were going to do it in conjunction with Osprey, the same way as they did for the Vietnam game. So basically Osprey took that on and published that for them. But I've stopped hearing about that. So whatever has happened with that seems to have gone away. So there are some miniatures for it. I got some BEF 2-pounder guns and things recently, but before the show, Kaiser and I were talking about the back catalogue for Battlefront, and in our trying times, that's one of the things they're having big difficulties with, is not the new stuff. They're trying to get the new stuff out, but it's the, if you want something that's a minor thing in the back catalogue, it's taking a bit of time to get hold of that, if at all.
Yeah. So they've not, somebody else mentioned Burma, Pacific. So for those like me, and obviously those that are new to Flames of War 3 was this huge and diverse product, which was a rule set with a massive range of figures in support of it. And in version 4, they decided they were essentially doing what Warhammer did with its 8th edition, was they were restarting their project, they were simplifying the rules and consolidating them, and they were going to focus on the stuff that they make, which are new kits, which are good kits, and which are popular areas. And that was kind of like 2016, 2015, something like that.
Yeah, 2016, I think.
And they started with the mid-war, which is why there's a lot of mid-war plastic. For what mid-war is, there's quite a lot of mid-war plastic.
That's because the Battlefront guys love the desert.
Why?
And now they're finishing up, reaching the end of the war. Now they have said always, look, it's not that we're not doing Pacific, it's not that we're not ever going to do this, but it's way down the road. There's a lot of other things that they also want to do, especially stuff in the 50s with the Cold War. So it's not that it's not there, it's just very low down on the list, I think.
It is. And coming up on the roadmap that we know about, I'm really hanging out for Bulge British. So the last of the Bulge series is going to be the British releases. So we're going to get Sextons and Comets and Challengers and all of those sort of late war British stuff. That will be the last British book. There will be some Berlin books that come out later that will cover the Germans and the Soviets, as far as I'm aware. But that will be it in terms of the Brits.
And where they go after that, in terms of their plastics, is really the thing. So I mean, a lot of people were quite upset about Flames of War going from 3 to 4. I think largely that argument has died down now because those that were really bothered about it just play something else now.
Yeah, that happened.
And those of us that are left are like, well, we play late war or we play mid war. So in terms of this mid war stuff, are we able to talk about it in a bit more detail? You had some slides, didn't you, Harry?
Yeah, absolutely did. If you want to pop those up.
Should we look at those? These are the things that this is what we know for certain. They have told us this. So if you go through the slides, we can talk about it more.
So I talked about there being a compilation book. So that's the Eastern Front is the one that's coming out. So that is Red Banner, Enemy at the Gates, Ghost Panzers, and Iron Cross. So 2 Russian books and 2 German books. As far as I'm aware, those are the ones that are going to be rolled into that.
I was told by my guy that that the miners, such as the information as they've got, will also be in there.
Oh, okay, that'd be great.
That there were like pamphlets and PDFs and things for Finns and so forth that they have released for. I believe that, like the mid-war monsters, they're little bits, and they're in there. They're in there too.
Well, that'll be fun. So 364 pages, although I take their page numbers with a grain of salt. I got caught like that, trusting their numbers for one of their other releases, and the numbers were wrong. But it's going to be a big book.
Yeah.
So yeah, nice big hardback book, and again, that's due out sometime in August, apparently. Their release dates are always a bit of a movable feast, like, plus or minus. And again, those numbers mean nothing in Australia, so...
Nah, it's shocking at the moment.
Yeah, it is pretty shocking. But it's that same thing of, this is combining all of those into one book. And again, as Johnny B asked, it's that thing of, it's a good way to fill out your collection. If you have 1 or 2 of these but don't have the others, it's quite economical to buy this one book now, and it wraps it all together. Plus, as the Kaiser said, you do get all the extra stuff like the allies and the mid-war monsters, which I was kind of on the fence about. What do you guys think about mid-war monsters? Do you have an opinion?
Me personally, I'm a bit too easy to be. Well, no, I'm easy. So yeah, I think it's fun being able to play what ifs and whatnot. But those grognards that want to be more historically accurate, I mean, they're going to hate it, right? Surely.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm super easy about it. It sounds like fun.
I think putting any unusual tank on the battlefield is always going to make it a little interesting point. See their survivability in that.
Yeah, I think it'll be weird if people bring, if your German player rocks up with a nice thing of Panzer 3s and 4s and you rock up with like a bunch of togs. I could imagine that.
I think
there could be some fun and games with that.
So I think that this is really going to affect people who either play competitively or play in a competitive style.
Yeah.
What's different about this is this is not a downloadable PDF on the website. This is embedded in the core campaign book for mid-war.
Yeah.
So people are going to feel a lot less uncomfortable. They're not like, they're like, oh, do you mind if I use these?
Yeah.
You're going to start seeing these. And like any model, as soon as you apply a point system to a battle game, things can be disproportionately good or bad.
Yeah.
It's not about having the best tank, it's about having the best value tank. And if some of these mid-war monsters, if their points are off, if they're just a bit too good for the points you pay, you're going to see them everywhere.
And having them wrapped, yeah.
I like to see stuff like that included in the system. I just like to see them pointed at such a ridiculously unusable and nonsensical points cost that nobody would choose to use them.
Yeah, for shits and giggles, great.
But having them wrapped into the book means people can rock up to tournaments with them unless tournament organisers say otherwise.
Yeah.
So it is a bit of a shift.
But if Tog was 50 points, you still wouldn't see it.
Yeah.
In a tournament is what I'm saying. And that's how I like to see that model personally. Is you put the things that are just so out of context, way overprice them, then they don't show up in the competitive game.
Ozakar in the comments is just talking about Soviet Panthers because that's Soviet players at the moment are apparently the best value for money tank they can take is captured Panthers. So
yeah.
Oh, wow.
You don't see any T-34s or it's all captured Panthers at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So this, and you mentioned the compilation book. It is a beast. It is a beast. I've not got the new one. I've got the last one, and it is.
No, we haven't even seen those here yet.
It is mighty.
It is huge, isn't it?
Yeah.
Bless you.
Oh dear.
Bless you again.
I've been trying to mute it before that happens.
Yeah.
But you had your hands full.
You might have my hands full. Yeah. And it is.
Just don't sell that one to anybody now.
It's got my own body fluids in it.
Surely that adds to the value, right?
So the good and bad about this, or I would say then, the good is that for anyone new wants to play mid-war, they buy one book. It isn't significantly more expensive than the individual books, and similarly one card pack. You know, if you're playing German, you're getting both sets of cards in there. But what there isn't in there is they haven't taken the opportunity to do any editing. This is not mid-war. This is not mid-war version 4.1. And there are definitely in any game with points, there are definitely some things which are pointed wrong. What was it that really stood out to me? German, in particular for mid-war, German tanks are just a little bit overcosted, and that is a problem, right? Because that's your signature, models. Upgun Panzer IIIs just cost too much for what they do. You're like, right, but I kind of want to play with Upgun Panzer IIIs. That's like, the business end of the German army.
Yeah.
And I think machine gun teams as well. I think a lot of people could take like a 2-base machine gun team and it's something like 3 points. You're like, no, mate, that's not worth it.
That's a lot of firepower for 3 points.
So they haven't gone through it again and adjusted the points. And I understand that. So I think it is the kind of, the door is locking on mid-war and saying it is now what it is going to be. I mean, 5, 10, 15, whatever years, there'll be Flames of War version 5. We might look at it again. But essentially, this compilation book says this: what there is, that's what there is, and that's all there's going to be.
I know Battlefront don't like to tweak their points. They really don't. Although Alad is pointing out that apparently there is a set of adjusted points that are making the rounds of the tournament scene.
Right. Right. That makes sense.
Which fixes some of that.
Yeah.
So with the compilation stuff, we always end up coming out with cool
6 boxes.
6 boxes. Yep.
6.
Lots of boxes. So if they got 6, because I've only got a couple listed here.
Yeah.
So the ones I saw stuff for.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you've got the 2 starter sets.
The 2 starter sets,
There's
that I saw.
4 starter armies, but you talk about these first.
All right, because we're grabbing whatever details we can. These turned up just in the last 2 weeks. For people's online retailers are taking pre-orders for stuff like this. So we're kind of making this up as we go along from the dribs and drabs of information we can find. So there's a picture here of this nice Stalingrad box set. And this is an interesting one because this isn't tank focused. This is infantry focused. So we've chuckled before about Battlefront and including infantry in their starter sets and things like that. It doesn't happen a lot. It's starting to happen more often now. And this one is very focused because it's 44 infantry teams, 9 guns and 3 tanks.
And those tanks are T-70s by the looks of things.
Yeah,
They're
little
really
light tanks. Yeah, not really tanks at all.
They're little baby tanks. Yeah. So this in this release, because you've only got the two protagonists. I mean, yeah, if they had a much more comprehensive range, maybe there would be a Finnish and a Romanian and an Italian and a Hungarian box. But that's not the position that we're going to find ourselves in here.
No.
What we've got is two Soviet boxes, and I really like, again, they've taken a different route with these, in that there's the Stalingrad box set, because they used to do another box called Stalingrad, which was a £25 starter set, and you got 5 tanks, and we reviewed that, and it's like, Stalingrad's not about tanks, it's about all the dudes in the town, right?
Yeah.
So this is an infantry set. They make nice hard plastic infantry, which is usable for the mid-war.
So both the sets of infantry here should be hard plastic.
But what you might see in this, now, they're trying to be smart about what they do. This is the back of the box.
Oh, yeah, it's a full service here at Fog of War.
Oh, wow, mate. Wow.
I hadn't seen this. So, I would expect that this is hard plastic infantry on sprue. Just ignore the Panzerschreck and Panzerfaust for both sides. But maybe with some resin ones for the PTRDs and flamethrowers. And I only say that is because there's a flamethrower on the front cover. And they don't make
flamethrowers and PTRDs. Oh, they do have them in flexible plastic, yeah.
They have them. And I'm looking at the back of the box, there's no PTRDs there. Because one of the things that I think that they're getting smarter about is saying, let's not put this in we don't want to showcase those. If you buy those PTRDs, every single one I've ever seen is quite badly bent, because it's a very long weapon made in the soft plastic, not on a sprue. So
they do look like they need a good dose of plastic Viagra.
Yeah, they really do. So this is, but I suspect that they probably do have some resin infantry in there, just because of the to get the variety, the different unit types. But I can't say that with any certainty. But it's nice because you've got although it's showing you the Nebelwerfers there, that's actually their Pack 40 sprue, I think. It makes the Nebelwerfer, or is it Pack 38, the 50mm one?
Yeah, it is. It's the 50mm.
It's the 50mm gun mix, so you can do either or, and presumably those are bigger artillery bases there. So that's probably the Pack 70, the
76mm.
Yeah.
Do you want me to go through what's in there?
Oh, you've got a list. Go on then.
Of course, I have a list. So on the German side, you get an infantry HQ and 2 infantry platoons, a 5cm anti-tank platoon, and 3 Nebelwerfers. And on the Soviet side, you get a HQ and 2 infantry platoons. Thomas Chase in the comments was just asking if that's 4 platoons of Russians. No, that's 2, because they're
huge. Just really big platoons.
Really, really, really big. 76mm artillery battery with 4 guns and 3 T-70 light tanks. So that's what you get. It's chock-a-block full of stuff.
So this box is the same size, I imagine, but certainly been building the same way. Just as a retailer, I've seen some of this stuff now, price-wise. I'm expecting this to cost the same as Hit the Beach and Kasserine and, was it Tobruk? This is going to be £42. And this is the kind of the infantry set for in Stalingrad, which, for those that want to fight that infantry battle, here's the set. Whole bunch of infantry. I mean, you think about this, £42 for all of that. It's £35 for a box of infantry from this company.
Oh, wow. That's bonus box to me.
So there's the equivalent of about 3 boxes of infantry there, plus the other stuff.
Yep. Hey, I just had a thought. So,
Don't do that.
Yeah, the Nebelwerfers make the 37mm gun, don't they?
It's a Captain Nebelwerfer!
Yeah, so... No, they make the 37mm German gun as well. You could also steal them, because that makes the 45mm gun for the Russians, which is based on the same thing. So if you wanted to rob the Nebelwerfers off the German side, you could actually stick some more light anti-tank guns in your Soviet force. Just a bit of a tip there if anybody wants to do that.
Exploit that box then.
And if you play other games like O Group or something, this is massively more infantry than you're ever going to need. Find someone to share it with.
Pack 37, isn't it? That's the number I'm trying to vaguely remember.
You
or
can
pack
do
36. Yep. So that's that set. But if you want your tanks, that's the thing you want. So 21 tanks in a box.
£2 a tank.
Yep. So yeah, that's your Russians versus your Germans on the Eastern Front in mid-war.
So interestingly, what are we seeing here? There's a lot of T-34s on. Have you got the back of this box as well?
I most certainly do. Would you like to see the back of the box, sir?
Let's see what we're going to get.
Of course there's a back of the box. What you're going to get is 2 Panzer IVs, 2 Panzer III Lates, 2 Panthers and 1 Tiger. Battlefront are really pushing the mid-war Panthers. And at least here they make sense. In the North Africa one, yeah, that was kind of a bit of a stretch.
There are no Panthers in North Africa.
They're in the North Africa book, though, I seem to recall.
Maybe they could be there.
They could be there. 7 T-34s, 3 Valentines, so you actually get some Lend-Lease British stuff in there as well, and 4 Su-85 tank killers. So that is a big box, and they all come with the A5 rulebook, the Quick Start Guide, and 11 unit cards.
Yoink.
And interestingly, these are the so in terms of the kits that we're going to get here. I'm looking at that Tiger. Has it got the desert filters on the back of it?
Comes in the kit, so you can decide to include them or not.
It does. There's a late war and there's an early war kit, and there's a late war and a mid war, or a late and an early tank. Because there's looking at those Panzer IVs, that's actually the one with Zimmerit, with the skirt.
Right. Okay.
And the Panther, can't tell which one it is. They need to see a much more close-up picture. Kursk is 43, so you're kind of in this transition period. But these are not Panzer 3s and 4s. This stuff is all usable in Normandy.
Yeah, absolutely. The Panthers, because they're not Panther G, so they'd have to be their Panther A with Zimmerit. So it'll have the Zimmerit coating on the Panthers.
Are they now in plastic then? Because the last time I bought mid-war Panthers, they were part resin.
Yeah, no, they've got a brand new plastic Panther A.
Yeah, there's 2 plastic kits, an A and a G.
Yeah. I just dropped a review of the Panther G on my channel, so if anybody wants to go and have a look at that one, because you can build the Yag Panther out of that same Panther G kit. Yeah. Which is very, very nice.
There is Zimmerit blocks on that Panther now. I've made the screen bigger.
Yeah.
So, and in terms of that T-34 I'm looking at with that, that's the T-34 76, but I can't tell you how early it is. It's not super early, but
it's not the early one. It's the model 1943 with that turret and mantlet that I can see from here.
Is it?
Yeah. But as far as I remember, that plastic kit comes with the 85 turret as well, I think. So you should be able to choose whether to make them as 76s or 85s if you want.
Yeah. Yeah. And the Su-85...
That's a fun little kit.
Does that also makes the Su-100, I think?
Yeah, I think it does.
Yeah. All right. So it's interesting, though, because you can... What they've done with these, they created 2 entry points. If you really want to go down the infantry route, they make a starter set. And if you just want to learn the basics of the game and have a bit of a fool around, they make the tank set. £2 a tank. If you've never built a Flames of War tank, buy one on eBay and have a go, because it is a for a war gamer. Buy one and build it and paint it. They are lovely. They really are lovely models to interact with.
Yeah. No, I've been around since plastic first started for them, and going back and reviewing that Panther G was interesting because the track set for that was actually made as a plastic set to go with resin hulls. So you can actually see some of that stuff, and it's very early in their thing of plastic. So there's stupid ejector pin marks in the wrong places. But then if you look at their new kits, that has all just transitioned up to now it's like 8 bits. You stick them all together, they all fit.
Yeah, you can see in that. I think that particular Panther kit that makes the Jag Panther, that part that you're talking about is 2012, whereas the rest of it is something like 2015.
Yeah,
it's like this. Although we get these 2 different sprues go in this box, they weren't made at the same time at all.
they weren't.
No. So this we know for sure. However, I don't know. You haven't got information on the next bit then, in relation to this mid-war release.
The only stuff I've got after this is the mid-war monsters. So I'm making a bit of a supposition. These are the mid-war monsters we haven't seen yet. There's more, but this is just a selection of the sort of thing that you can expect that they will wrap into the compilation book.
All right. So well, leave those pretty pictures up there for people to Google these things while we talk. So I've spoke to my my rep over there and said, as far as we understand it, that there are going to be 4 armies as well. You know, the 80-pound starter armies, and they're going to follow the same pattern. There's going to be a Soviet tank one, a Soviet infantry one, a German tank one, a German infantry one.
Great.
Obviously, I haven't seen any details on that, and whether those. It'd be interesting to see what they do with the Soviet infantry one, though, because there's a lot of infantry in that stuff. But that probably does include your flamethrowers and your PTRDs and your it's going to have a lot of Psyocast parts that are going to flesh them out. You might get a load of what is it, M3 or M5, the US half track?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the Soviet motor rifle, the Guards ones, which by 1943, the shock forces, they're using those things to transport their infantry.
Yeah.
You might see that. I'm pretty confident you're going to see probably 251s. They might do 250s because they've only appeared in one army set. But I think you're going to find the German one in that set is going to be in half tracks.
Yeah.
Can I please have one of the bottom left tanks?
Because it's called Dicker Max.
Yeah. Oh, please.
Yeah, I don't know who was in charge of late war German weird tank naming, but yeah, it got very weird.
Michael Wayne says he hopes the KV2 will be out. I mean, the KV2 is out, isn't it?
There is a plastic KV2 available. It's just not in any of the sets that we're talking about.
Oh.
I can't remember in the KV1 and KV2.
Oh, hang on. No, the KV2 with the KV2 turret. So that's the big slab-sided turret with the great big naval gun in the damn thing.
Right. So they will make one in resin and metal, but getting hold of one.
Or buy a Zvezda one in plastic. They're really nice.
Right. Yeah, there you go. So these things, like you're saying,
just don't tell Battlefront I said that.
These are going to be resin and metal kits.
Yeah.
So be prepared to breathe in a lot of resin fibers as you sand this stuff down and stick your face to the model with the super glue and all of that. But you've done a fair bit of Battlefront resin and metal over the years, Harry. Any tips other than don't do it?
Damn, that was going to be my tip. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the resin and metal, but no, I have done a bunch of these in resin and metal. They're generally okay. Sometimes the tracks need straightening up, lots of super glue, sometimes lots and lots of super glue. It can really depend on the age of the mold. So I've had ones where, it looks like it was carved by a desperate prisoner out of a block of soap, and other ones where it's turned up and they're actually not bad. But just don't ever talk to me about the resin and metal track rapier for Team Yankee, because that was just...
Is there much gun barrel straightening that's involved as well?
There's lots of straightening involved. Actually getting them straight, almost never. That's the problem with sort of round things that get bent. It's very hard to get them back straight again.
Yeah,
I'm a plastic guy. I can't help it.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in the whole, just be patient, right? Can't do everything tomorrow, but it's all right. I'm planning to be here for several more years to play with the things that I've got now that are in plastic. They do add things all the time.
They do.
They cover a vast range, and unless there's a really, really overpowering reason to do it, just play with the plastic kits, man.
And again, there's only so many things they can bring out. I mean, as you said earlier, the version 3 back catalogue was huge because it was everything that opened and shut, and everything they ever made more than one of was kind of represented.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. So Thomas Chase is saying in the comments that super glue works much better when you have an accelerator to spray on it. I've never used super glue accelerator, so that actually might be a cool tip.
If you're doing fine work, it's better. But when you're doing the larger pieces, it's easier to put them to the side. But it stops you holding the two pieces together to spray it on, and it does seem to freeze it a bit. Some are pretty good and some are pretty bad. So just getting the right pairing.
Yeah. It's truth.
I'm looking on the what's it called? The Firestorm Games website, because somebody said this information was on there. I'm not seeing it, if I'm being brutally honest. I'm not seeing it.
Lies.
So we were talking accelerator, but one of the things you really need is acetone, because when I do stick myself to my stuff, or stick my fingers to my other fingers, it's always good to be able to use some acetone to get the damn super glue off.
I was doing some metal cowboys for Dead Man's Hand, and I just was working away, and then went to try and unlock my phone, and my thumbprint didn't work.
And you got dead hands, man.
Is that because your thumbprint was still stuck to some figure somewhere?
Well, no, there was enough of the super glue. It wiped out the resolution of my thumbprint. So was it Mission Impossible, isn't it, where they put those?
Just public service announcement. Please don't do that if you plan to commit any crimes. Do not cover your fingers in super glue as an attempt to evade the authorities. That's end of public service announcement.
Don't kick them either, because that burns.
All right, so I'm not seeing these 4 army boxes, but when I phoned up my rep, I said, is this like the other one? Is it 4 army boxes, 2 starter armies? And if so, can I have 3 of each? And he just said yes. So
right.
That's my feeling. I don't have any particular inside track on it other than that. You didn't give me any details.
And again, we're making this up out of what details we're seeing on manufacturers' websites. And I went back to the Mid-War Monsters page on the Flames of War website and went, what hasn't come out in the other one yet? What's going to come out in the Soviet set? So
Firestorm have got the Kursk and the Stalingrad box. It's just these other 4 army boxes I'm not seeing. But it's possible they did have them up the other day, and Flames of War said, we haven't announced these yet.
Yeah, because I did on Tabletop released a bunch of information about this stuff that suddenly disappeared off their website very quickly, I noticed.
Did they?
They did.
Right.
Because I thought, I'll go back to that article I read the other day and raid some stuff out of that for tonight. And when I went back, it's like, what article? No, never an article here.
Right. So Flames of War. Now, later in the year, you did mention it earlier. We'll go back to it briefly just because of
Bulge British.
Bulge British. So I'm currently...
I want my British bulge.
You want your British bulge? So I'm... For what World of Tanks and Miniatures game does give us some insight to things that are coming out. Sometimes they get released. So what's this?
I don't know, because it's really tiny. It looks like a Challenger tank to me.
It's a Challenger tank. And what's that?
That's a stretched Cromwell, where they put a bunch of very frightened guys in a really dumb-looking turret with a 17-pounder gun, while they were waiting for more sensible 17-pounder armed guns to become available.
So this is a replacement for Firefly to go with the Cromwell squadrons because they're so much faster than Sherman, and this thing can actually keep up.
Yeah, but has some decent firepower, so it can punch holes in things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really, really need some to replace the resonant metal ones I've got for my Cromwell armored squadrons.
So am I right in thinking this also is not a new kit? This has been released previously. Is that right?
It's been released as a resonant metal kit, but plastic one, I am definitely hanging out for the plastic version. Yeah.
Right. So that's new.
I'll be intrigued to see what rules they have for it, because the version 3 rules had actually got a nice high firepower rating because there are 2 loaders in that turret.
Is that because it's 2-part ammunition?
No, it's because they take turns.
They take turns?
They take turns. It's like any good key party, everybody takes a turn. So yeah, basically it's bigger ammunition that they're not used to handling, so 2 loaders means you can keep your rate of fire up.
Right. Okay. Because it is massive, that turret. It really is massive.
I mean, they had to stretch the Cromwell hull to put it in. If you count the number of road wheels up the side of it, it's actually got an extra road wheel because they had to make it longer to fit that great turret on.
Right. But it isn't as thinly armoured as Cromwell either, is it? It's not just a Cromwell with a big gun on it.
I don't think it's got any more armour. It's just a Cromwell with a big gun on it.
Is it?
In the British Army, you could have armour or a big gun. You can't have both. Please make your choice.
Right. Okay. But what else might we see in that? So we've not had, and we're not going to get. We now know, certainly at this stage, we're not going to get a Market Garden supplement.
No, that's all rolled into the Bulge thing. So the Bulge British will cover Market Garden through there. So that means that all the things like comets, and Comet is one of my favourite Battlefront plastic kits. They just, like, you sneeze on them and they fall together. They're a lovely little kit. And that's the 17-pounder armed, or the 77mm armed, basically updated Cromwell thing, the cruiser tank. They're very, very nice. They were very expensive in version 3, so I'll be interested to see what they're like in version 4. But also Sexton. So instead of American self-propelled artillery support, the British actually get their own with 25-pounders based in a Canadian Ram hull. Mm-hmm. So those will be nice to have in plastic.
And we think they're going to make Sexton in plastic, or do we know that then?
As far as I know, they're making it in plastic. Again, this is dealing with rumours and supposition, and I've not seen anything that confirms it, but it would make sense that they will be available. Sexton has been available previously in resonant metal. I'm hoping it's plastic, but I can't possibly guarantee that.
Yeah. So those now, the way that they do their releases, you see, I'm not sure what's going to happen, the order that this is going to happen now, because I would have expected there to be after this big mid-war release we're going to get, that they're not going to roll straight into Bulge British, or the last British Flames of War book.
Yeah,
which is going to be, and I would expect there to be something for Team Yankee. But that's more problematic, because what we know about what we're getting in Team Yankee starts to get a bit more vague.
Yep. So far, all they've said is that it's Wolverines. And the hint that everybody has taken from that is they're actually taking some 1980s film inspiration, and Team Yankee is going even more into the fantasy realm, with following what was the movie? Red Dawn?
Red Dawn.
Yeah, Red Dawn.
Red Dawn, yeah.
So yeah, the Cuban and Soviet invasion of America. So I think what we can talk about for that would be, we'd expect to see Soviet airborne troops, the VDV.
Yeah.
The Desantniki.
Are these the Blue Berets, or are they the
the
Marines?
Blue Berets, yep. So we'll see the Blue Berets, and if we're going to get them, we're going to have to get BMDs. There's going to have to be basically the airborne version of the BMP. It's a personnel carrier with 30 mil gun or whatever it is to transport the airborne troops. It's airdroppable. So we would expect to see that. But again, all this is kind of guesswork. There hasn't been an awful lot of it out. There's been one or two pictures of some VDV infantry. This year's Team Yankee tournament objective is an upside down McDonald's sign so that they don't get sued, with a couple of paratroopers, Soviet paratroopers, and a resin BMD.
Right. Because people have mentioned it, I've been on Wayland Games, who we do have an affiliate link to, by the way, if you're thinking of buying them. But obviously these you can buy directly from us as well. So they do have these army boxes, and there are 4. So there's a German Grenadier Company, which is infantry and artillery, lots of artillery.
Right.
There's a mixed Panzer Company, which is a platoon of infantry in half tracks and a lot more tanks, which look mostly Panzer 3s and 4s. But also, is that Hornice? That I wasn't expecting. Yeah, it is. They've got the Hornice in there, some Stugs, 7 Panzer 3s, and then the Soviet Hero Rifle Battalion, which is again a load of infantry and guns, and a T-34 tank battalion. But it isn't that box you had before, which was just T-34s. It's got a bit of infantry, it's BA-64s, and a couple of T-70s. So there's some nice looking sets there for those that are interested. But if you want to see the details of what they're going to be, Wayland Games website is up there now. And that is coming in August, that stuff, 100%.
Oosh.
Yeah, August of this year.
Well, hopefully, right? You were saying with the problems and everything else that we're having with distribution and supply.
It's always August somewhere.
Well, yeah, I guess so. Tuesday.
Oh dear. So yeah, I wish I had more to tell you about some of those, but I mean, I didn't even know about those other 4 army boxes. I hadn't seen any of that
there
yet.
You go. We've been learned up by whoever commented that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is always good. Always good.
Oh, I think we're losing the Kaiser.
Yeah, man.
He's lost the will to live.
Bless him. Are you excited about any of that then, Harry?
Yeah. So mid-war is kind of not my thing. I've always been a late war guy. I am really hanging out for the Challenger. Really, really, really want Challenger to put into my late war British, but just the mid-war stuff, they're nice kits, so it's really nice to see them all reboxed and repackaged. And them getting some use out of those. They've got those hard plastic Soviet and the hard plastic German infantry for mid-war. And ways for people to get hold of them is always good, because they're really, really nice kits.
Just infantryman in that game.
It becomes a really different game as soon as you put infantry in. I think the Kaiser and you have mentioned that before, that as soon as, tank on tank, you whiz around and you shoot the living crap out of each other.
And things blow up, and it's a pretty...
And things blow up, and it's very spectacular, it's very Hollywood. As soon as you put some infantry in, then you have to go and dig people off objectives. And
and
the key thing for me was 6-pounder guns for my British. So my British war was getting stomped by German tanks. As soon as I started buying some decent anti-tank guns and digging them in with the infantry, it's like, yeah, come and get me.
And again, I think that's the points. That's a points problem. I think we played, John and I played some mid-war stuff. We started with that old LLMA box, but as we started to scale up and have the points, it's like, I'm turning up with 2 or 3 times as much stuff. And this 6-pounder is perfectly adequate for those German tanks.
Yeah, more than adequate.
Perfectly adequate.
When we played a game with my American Armored Infantry, didn't we, Mike? And when I started pulling out all of my infantry bases to go in those half tracks.
Well, if you think that's funny, start facing mid-war Soviets when they start getting 20 or 30 infantry bases to a platoon. It's like,
Yeah.
no, this is just my one platoon. Hang on, I've got this other box over here with my second platoon in it.
20 bases that get one shot each.
Yeah, that's right. But you have to kill them all one shot at a time.
Yes. Yeah, it's why you need template weapons, right? You absolutely need template weapons. And you need
Vickers machine guns. To sit there with Vickers machine guns, nice and dug in, come and get me.
Nice. So in terms of what's left for Flames of War in the mid-war, because obviously I think you so we had a bit of a talk before the show, and you said you think that they're going to shoot for Christmas and miss with the British. I think they're going to do it because I think that they have a big release every 2 months and a modest release in the interval months, and I think they've been keeping to that. I think they've been mostly on track with that.
They've managed to keep that going so far.
What they're struggling with is everything else.
All the old stuff.
Because I guess it's in terms of the factory, the production, and so forth. They know, right? These 400 of these on that pallet to go into that container. That's leaving on Wednesday. It's filling the back catalogue is much more of a problem.
Yeah.
In terms of distribution. But it's what next? Now, as I understand it, Siminovich has said in the past that we should expect one more German and one more Soviet book.
Yeah, so there'll be a Berlin, a 45 book, which I'm assuming. I don't even know if it's going to be 2 books, but there will be a book at least that covers the very, very late war battles.
But I don't know what we should expect to find in.
No, I haven't got any idea either. I was just racking my brains for what that would be, but I mean, we'll have all the plastic kits. It's not like they're going to have anything new in terms of kits. But again, who can tell with Battlefront? Like, I dropped my crystal ball. It's all broken. That's why I walk funny.
Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking whether there is something a bit more mainstream that they don't currently have a kit card that we kind of forgetting about for some reason. I'm not sure.
Maybe they just want to sell more of those, what are they, 203mm tracked artillery things that the Russians used for infantry support as they drove through Berlin.
Oh, that massive tractor with a cannon on it.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
A few of those in an infantry platoon in a set would be fun.
Because I really can't think of any kind of mainstream. Well, I'll tell you the one thing that's massively missing from Flames of War, but I don't expect to see that turn up in Berlin, is there's no soft skins.
Yeah.
I don't imagine that turning up. I think, if there's something, if there's something that's kind of missing from the table, if you'd play anybody else's World War II game, you'd have 50 trucks on the table in addition to the stuff that you've already got.
And version 4, they really went away from that because it used to be like, I have a ton of trucks for my British forces because they were all lorry-borne infantry.
Yeah.
But what they've done with that now, I hated when version 4 came out, command cards. Because when they came out, there was a whole bunch of comedy bollocks in there that didn't make any sense. Really stupid rules and dumb add-ons that didn't make any sense. I have had my arm twisted about what they've done with command cards now, because apparently the command cards for Bulge German all make sense. That's how you get Panzer Brigade 150. That's how you get different things. So that's where they're putting their soft skins. Yeah. So if you want to add soft skins to your infantry, that will be in the command cards. That's where that will come from. And they do have resin and metal versions of those, but again, that's not what they're pushing.
No, I'm just wondering in terms of the release, there's invariably a new model with the release. So there's a kit that's missing from the line that I would have expected to see in a lot more armies, is something like an Opel Blitz with a 20mm flak on the back of it.
Yep.
That goes back to 1939. Where's that model? That it's a support option in all the books, but you to buy a resin and metal one. You know, I just wonder if they're going to do something, bring us a new model with the late war. Is it going to be
Interestingly,
something retroactive?
you mentioned the 20 mil because they do actually have a plastic kit of the single gun AA thing that they released with the Fallschirmjäger that is currently not available anywhere. I was looking at it and went, oh, I should buy one of those and review it. And it was only released as the Fallschirmjäger stuff before the North Africa thing, which folded all the paratroops into it, and it doesn't seem to be available at the moment. So
They made a plastic truck with a flak.
no, not a truck, but the 20 mil gun, the small mount, which was used by the Fallschirmjägers quite a lot.
Right, yeah.
Somebody, David W. in the comments, is talking about the Pack 40 half track. So the SDKF Z251 with the 75 mil anti-tank gun mounted on it. It's on the AA sprue for Bulge German, but there's been no unit card for that yet. So that's probably one of the things that we'll see a unit card for that in the Berlin book.
When you say the AA sprue, there's a 251D kit they make, which has got a triple 20 mil cannon in a funny position.
Yeah. That sprue, which came out with the Bulge German, also has the 40 mil on it. There's just not been a card for the 40 mil one yet.
Similarly, on the American side, there was the M16 with the 450 cows anti-aircraft. They used it late war and anti-infantry. They called it the meat grinder.
Yeah, that is available. I actually have that in the review stash. That was the very first kit that I bought with my advertising revenue when I monetized the channel. So they do actually have a plastic kit of that one, Mike. If you're looking for meat grinders, they're right there.
Now, for a long time though, you could only buy a Russian one. You could only buy it from the Soviet crew.
There is an American boxing of it now, though.
Yeah.
All right.
Is there? Yeah. So not quite sure what we're going to get. I don't think we're going to see, IS-3 or something like that as part of that release. But there is, I suppose, there is a possibility. As I say, I'm just not sure what we are going to see in that release.
Yeah, I think Battlefront are very closed-mouthed about a lot of that stuff because they don't want to promise something and then for some reason not be able to deliver it. So that's kind of why there is a sport of keeping an eye out for retailers and seeing what stuff gets advertised so that we can pretend to talk authoritatively about what's coming. But it really is. That's how we figure that stuff out.
Yeah. But, what we do also know, though, is there's 3 more waves of this to come out.
Yeah.
They said there's going to be 10 waves in the first, in the kind of the first batch, and then they'll have a think. This is wave 7, the King Tiger.
Yep.
What's next? They've released 3 more vehicles. I know what I want to see. I want to see a plastic Panzer II.
A plastic Panzer II would be really nice.
Yeah. Like and a multifaceted one. I was a little bit upset, not massively upset, but a little bit disappointed when they brought out the Hetzer that you couldn't make a Panzer 38T out of it.
Yeah.
You could nearly make a Panzer 38T out of it.
But not quite.
But not quite. Yeah.
So David W. in the comments is also talking about the Pack 40 Puma. So the existing Puma kit has the Pack 40 stuff on it. So we might get some rules for that as well. That would be good.
Isn't that already in there?
I don't know.
In the Bulge German? I suppose I don't.
Sure.
I built minus Pumas, so
me too.
I've not looked for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I built mine so the turrets are interchangeable. So the top deck, I didn't glue it in, and then you've got the framework with the Pack 40 just drops on top. But I don't think I've got. I don't think there's bold rules for it.
And so I didn't build any.
The Challenger is coming out soon. So yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm putting some paint on it now. It's
right.
Out, if you want one. Right. So yeah, but then what happens after that? I mean, so I'm quite looking forward to. It's a long way off yet, but what whatever Pete Siminovich has got to tell us this Christmas, I really have no idea. Because there's a lot of different ways. When they did their original roadmap, when they started Late War, they're like, look, for the next couple of years, you're just going to be seeing Late War from us. We're going to do this, we're going to do this, and this is what the first kits are going to look like. Brilliant. We all got fizzy about it. But we're reaching the end of the Late War. So what comes next? Do we get Pacific? Do we get early war? I know he's very interested in Bush Wars. He's very interested in that kind of 50s and 60s stuff in Africa and places. I don't know what we're going to see.
Checkpoint Charlie is something that they've talked about, which is doing basically in between Team Yankee and the end of the war in Flames of War. So that would
Operation Unthinkable.
Yeah, so, or not even that, sort of the 1950s and 60s. So M48s, Centurion, IS-3, that kind of stuff. And that would be a lot of fun. Bush Wars, they keep talking about. The Pacific, they keep promising people Pacific because people want to have Marines, US Marines and Japanese forces and do that stuff. That would be cool. But yeah, Michael Wayne's talking about a plastic Centurion would be awesome. And I agree. I've got a couple of resin and metal Australian ones for my NAM force, but yeah, you can kill burglars with those if you throw them hard enough. It's huge.
Right. So I think the door is wide open. Now I do have an apology to make as well in relation to speaking, because I mentioned him a couple of times now. Is I actually got contacted the week before last by Pete Siminovich because he's in the UK, and I contacted the marketing and said, any chance we can talk to him? But unfortunately, there was a bloody rail strike on, and it was just. And he was really interested in talking to us face to face and being recorded, a bit like we did with John Stallard. But there was so little time left, and the trains were all on strike. It just wasn't possible.
I would love to have seen that.
Yeah.
Pete's actually good fun to talk to.
Yeah, and like a lot of these guys, if you manage to sit down with these people, they tell you more than they're supposed to when they're in charge. And then maybe they regret it later, and maybe they don't.
Well, they tell you more than they're supposed to, Kaiser. I think that's the factor we have to think about there.
What? Oh, right. Okay.
Your sparkling charm and personality.
Boyish good looks, mate. That's what it's all about.
Oh, okay.
Especially when
Sorry.
I'm coughing like this. But he's going elsewhere in Europe, and he might be coming back. So I might get the opportunity to interview him in the summer, but I might not. But he was quite keen to do it. It was like, this would be so much better than... He was not interested in being on a live stream, but if we can go and interview it, it's so much better than a live show, I think. But I'd be really, really excited to know what they're going to do next. So let's have a quick round of table in terms of what we want. What do you want next? Me, 100%. Early war. I want dudes on motorcycles. I want all of that stuff. For me, that's what I want next. John, what would you like to see Flames of War do next once they finish the Late War?
I would like to see version 5 with simplified infantry rules, much easier to kill. There you go. Because I hate them.
Oh. Harry.
Checkpoint Charlie. I have a massive hard-on for plastic Centurions. I really, really want one. Please, if anybody's watching from Battlefront, please. Mike, what do you want?
I think the same as the sort of like the post-war American stuff and the post-war British Centurions against the very early post-war Russians. The Korean offensive or something like that.
You didn't see Korea?
Yeah.
Right. Interesting.
Well, I'd still get plastic Centurions out of that, so I could get behind that.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why I'm not up for that, and the same reason I'm not that excited about Pacific is I don't think infantry is Flames of War at its best.
No.
As a game, and I'm not criticizing it because I think it's quite credible the way. As soon as you throw infantry in the mix, it really slows down. You know, they are the cock blockers of Flames of War, or whatever you want to call it. It's like, okay, you got to slow down now. You need a very different way of dealing with this, and I think that's what infantry do. I think that's very credible.
If you want fast with that sort of stuff, though, try cavalry in early war. We did an early war tournament, and the Italian cavalry were just all over the shop, tore across the table and did weird stuff. It was a lot of fun, actually.
Well, that sounds good. Infantry are integral to the game, right? Integral to the war. But the way that it changes the game, they're like two separate games.
Yeah.
Completely. And I don't
like that. It
does
really change it up.
Streamlined it a little bit.
Yeah.
Too clunky. Don't like it.
Yeah. All right. I'm not critical of it. It just it plays as
I am.
Game. Yeah, and that's horses for courses, right? Be nice to get some Gloucester meteors. Yeah, I mean, maybe. Is that a late war monster? I don't know. In terms of hobbying, then, did anybody do anything? I got some base coats on this Challenger. John?
Wow. I learned that some of the O200 War Games Atlantic arms from the British SAS do fit on the War Games Atlantic resistance fighters. However, this dude that I just made now, his hand is bigger than his Swede, and his arms just seem a bit too long. He's like proper. Look, it's just out of proportion. But the other two,
and his legs.
Right. Well, yeah, he's got skinny ass legs, but yeah, it's all a bit weird. So I might have to redo that one. But two of them come out all right. Yeah. Obviously, Harry's been talking, so we can't.
I have. So I've been doing no hobby at all.
Sole purpose. Mike, you've been quiet in the corner. Surely you've painted an entire army.
I've not been painting. The American football team I coach, two of the lads in there have discovered 40K and telling me how wonderful it is and how good they are. So I've been building these, and then I'm going to be building these.
What are we looking at?
The Space Marine Combat Patrol.
Nice, all right.
Cool. The Space Wolves Combat Patrol.
Oh, I thought you were doing Dark Angels.
I am building them as Dark Angels, so I've got the conversion kit. So my Phobos lieutenant's got the winged helmet.
Chaos wings.
My sergeant has got an RTB-1.
Beaky head.
With a Dark Angels logo on the helmet.
Well.
Dark Angels, also known as Chaos Space Marines.
Yeah.
All right, that's going to be it from us. Sorry if you had to listen to me cough and sputter too much, but I didn't want to.
No, you did all right, and thank you for soldiering on, sir.
And remember that young Harry here was actually up at 4:15 a.m. Australia time to do this for us, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, got to get some breakfast now.
All right, guys. Thank you for watching.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.